Hello everyone, Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to you all. It's now been around 9 months since I started the Markonmotoring YouTube channel, after much contemplation. Having always had an interest in driving, I was sat watching some of the established channels, in particular those that were running older vehicles, with great interest. A little over a year ago I seized the opportunity to buy my 1997 Mark I Renault Megane Coupe. Now this is a car that I've always wanted to own. The car was brought home on the back of a recovery vehicle, and then I set about assessing what I'd actually gotten myself into. Being that it was winter here in the UK as well, and with no garage, I set about a number of tasks outdoors. Now initially I wasn't filming, as me staring into an engine bay without much in the way of a plan of action wouldn't have made for very good viewing. I soon had my hands full due to getting rust in one eye, which was rather unpleasant, and the car developing an electrical fault which turned out to be something very minor, but it was preventing the car from fueling, so the engine wouldn't run. So after entrusting a little help from outside, we managed to get the car running, and then I was able to begin setting about a few of the tasks at hand. So in my very first introduction video in March, I talked about my history with Megane dating all the way back to the car's UK launch in 1996, before giving a bit of an update on my progress with my particular vehicle. So by April I was a few videos in, and I decided to produce my first road test video, which just so happened to be my daily car, the Fiat 500 S Twin Air 105. So the car with that particular specification actually had quite a short production run, being that it was the 105 horsepower version of the Twin Air engine. So I thought that it might make for an interesting video. Now, as I was still in the very early stages of learning about video production and YouTube, there were inevitably a few issues, namely with regard to the audio in some parts of the video. But nonetheless, it's proved to be an extremely popular video. And it's had somewhere in the region of about 3,500 views to date. I also did a short interior run through on a DAF XF tractor unit, which I had the opportunity to do so just to bring a little bit more variety onto the channel. Ultimately though, the channel was born out of the Megane. I had actually found that there was very little in the way of English spoken content about these cars on YouTube compared to other brands of vehicle. So work slowly progressed, with me completely at the mercy of the UK weather. And when I did get a dry day, things didn't always go to plan. So for example, one particular job I started, I needed to get the wheels off. And I found that the 24 and a bit year old lock-in wheel bolt key, which was of quite a poor design, it bent. I'd been warned that that could happen, but before I had a chance to remove the bolts to replace them, it failed me. So that presented an opportunity to do a video of how to remove a wheel bolt with the missing key. I also ended up with a sheared wheel bolt, so that turned into another video. There were some successes along the way though. In the Mark I Phase 1 Meganes, in particular on my 1.6e, the engine is mounted directly on top of the subframe. Now, one of these engine mounts, presumably an original 24-year-old one, had completely rotted. I suspected there was an issue, and when I came to assess it, basically the rubber just crumbled away in my hand. So that had to be replaced. I also replaced the front anti-roll bar bushers, along with various other components, including a radiator, all the relevant hoses, various filters for things like oil, fuel air, spark plugs, front brake discs and pads, and a lot more beside. The oil and coolant were also replaced, and come June it was finally time to put the car back on the road. So to my relief, the car drove pretty much as it should have done. Bearing in mind, up to this point I'd only driven it off the seller's drive and onto the back of a transport. So first thing I did, because the car had been sat for quite a while, is I took it to my local mechanic for a check over. Now the car initially did feel a little bit stiff from having not moved, but after it had been assessed by a mechanic, there were a few small recommendations which were swiftly executed. A few more videos then followed with sort of tinkering and various renovation, things like refurbing the alloy wheels, for example. Finally, having the car back on the road, I started to attend a few local events as I began to, or basically began proving the car mechanically in readiness for a longer road trip. In July, I departed from Yorkshire in the Megane, bound for the British Motor Museum in Gaydon. So the museum itself was fantastic, and if you haven't been there already, I would highly recommend visiting. If you haven't already done so, you may like to check out my video which covers both the buildings there at Gaydon. That wasn't the end of the trip though, because then I got back in the car, back on the road heading southbound towards Southampton. Now the reason for this trip was I was attending the Lloyd Vehicle Consult in Social event. Some of you may already be familiar with the Lloyd Vehicle Consult in YouTube channel. While I was there, I saw a number of very interesting vehicles. So I was also able to finally meet a few fellow YouTubers for the first time, namely Joseph Lloyd himself, whose event I was attending, also Ben Quirk from the Planet Auto channel, Jake Bill from Wool's Wheels, and James Coleman, the rubbish mechanic. So you may already be familiar with their respective channels, but if not, then do consider checking them out, as I think you won't be disappointed. Day 3 I headed west. Day 4 saw us visit the Haynes Motor Museum before heading back home. It was a very hot weekend, albeit with one slightly wet day. The Megane, regrettably, doesn't have any air conditioning. Now, air conditioning was available as a cost option on the Megane from sort of 97 onwards on the 1.6s, and I think from launch on the 2 litre cars. Sadly, mine doesn't have that option ticked, and to be honest, it's an option that was seldom spec'd in the 1990s anyway. The car actually performed admirably well, covering around 700 trouble-free miles over that weekend, and averaging around 46 miles per gallon, which I thought was pretty impressive for a car that probably hadn't covered 700 miles between its last few MOTs. The car has since become a family favourite, having carried the 4 of us and our luggage over that weekend with considerable ease. A number of local events were subsequently attended over the summer, including classic car shows at both Walton and Netherton here in Yorkshire, as well as some midweek evenings at the Motorist, which staggeringly attracted around 400 cars, which was pretty impressive for a midweek meet. I also attended a drive out in the Yorkshire Dales with the Harewood Drivers Club. One Saturday morning in August, the Motorist also hosted the hugely popular Hubnut Social event, which I attended in the Megane. Shortly after arrival, I was greeted by a few people who had seen the Megane quite recently prior to that, reviewed by Joseph Lloyd on his channel. Now, one of those such people just so happened to be Davey from the Scottish Car Enthusiast and Trains TV YouTube channel. I was also very pleased to be parked next to Joe from the Rover Joe YouTube channel with his fantastic Rover R8 200 series, which he kindly gave me a tour around on camera. Many of you may well know I do have quite a fondness for Rover R8 200s. I don't own one, but I certainly wouldn't rule out ever owning one. I also had the pleasure of meeting for the first time Steph Holloway, as you will probably know from the iDriver Classic YouTube channel, along with Mr. Ian Seabrook and Carly of the Hubnut channel, of whose event I was attending. It was a fantastic event, drawing lots of visitors, and after returning home for a quick lunch, it was time to swap cars and head out again, because I was heading to Kent, this time with the Fiat 500, for Festival Italia at Brands Hatch with the Fiat 500 Owners Club UK. Now, this is an event I'd actually attended the year previous as well. And I'll be honest, it was an exhausting weekend, but also enjoyable nonetheless. So as summer turned to autumn, it was very much of the same, trying to make the most of local events before the winter weather and darker nights returned. So I took the Megane on another little trip, this time a little more local, into North Yorkshire. First stop was the NY 500 Cafe, which is just a few miles outside Pickering, as it's a new event. A new venue that hosts car events that I've not previously visited. After a short stop there for a cup of tea, it was time for a drive over the moors towards Whitby. And of course, I documented that trip in video, so if you haven't seen that already, feel free to check it out. A chance encounter with the Land Rover Series 2 owners near Wakefield has resulted in what has become one of the most popular videos on the channel to date. Little did I know that this would become the case at the time. Just in time for Halloween, I was able to interview Dave with his Mark I Skoda Octavia estate, but this is no regular Skoda Octavia. In fact, this one has been converted into a replica of the Ghostbusters Ecto 1. So I've yet to get up close to another vehicle that is anything like as unique as this one. Harewood Drivers Club also had a meet at the hill climb circuit, which was for the first time since early in 2019. November proved to be a surprisingly busy month as well, with the Megane passing its MOT and me unexpectedly attending the Classic Motor Show at the NEC. Now, I had wanted to attend this, having missed some other rather good events through the year, but had been expecting to be working. Finding out at the last minute that I wasn't required to work on the Saturday, I got home 11 o'clock Friday night and booked my ticket, and I was down there the Saturday morning. I was pleased to catch up with a few old friends I'd met earlier in the year, and for the first time ever I got to meet Mr. Matt Richardson of the Furious Driving YouTube channel. He was sharing a stand at the NEC with Ian Seabrook and Steph Holloway. Matt was also kind enough to give me an interview, which again is another video if you haven't seen already. By all means, take a look. By this point I only had literally days of road tax remaining on the Megane before it was being declared a statutory off-road notice or SORN. So I found myself back at the Harewood Hill Climb for another one of their monthly meets. As I say, the last outing of the Megane, probably an event before coming off the road. So this time the local Abarth clubs were attending the event with a number of interesting cars, including some limited run models such as the 70th Anniversario, as seen on Wolfie's Wheels YouTube channel, and the incredibly rare Abarth Assetto Corsa, which was a one of 49 built for a race series. In fact, this one was increasingly rare because it was a wide-bodied, one of only 2 that were ever built. So following that, I took my one last drive in the Megane off camera before parking it up over winter. What I should have probably been doing was giving it a good clean and putting the car cover over, but instead I chose the last dry day to go out for a drive, which I enjoyed very much. I'll be honest, it's barely been a month since the car was taken off the road, but I'm itching to get back behind the wheel already. Despite being busy working as a HGV driver, I've still managed a final trip to the motorist in December and another Fiat 500 review as well. So 2021 has been a wild ride, and I'm eternally grateful to all of those who have been watching, liking the videos and commenting. So far, over 120 people and counting have subscribed to the channel, and I hope that those of you who haven't yet done so will consider subscribing. There's no financial cost to you for doing this, so you will be updated as new videos are released. We've also racked up close to 1,000 hours of viewing time since starting in March, and I expect this will continue to grow. I've already booked tickets for some events for next year, such as the Hubnut Social and the French Car Meet at the Motorist in Sherburn. I'll link their website into the video description because you'll be able to see all the list of events for 2022 on there. So hopefully I may even get to meet some of you there. If you do happen to see me at one of these events, please do feel free to come over and introduce yourselves. COVID continues to present issues in our daily lives, I had been planning on a road trip very soon, which would have taken me outside of the UK in the Megane. I'm currently uncertain as to if this will still be possible. If it does go ahead, then I may have to go via a different route to that initially intended. I'd also like to feature some of your cars much more over the coming year. If you have a car that you would like to discuss producing a video on, then please email me at markonmotoring@yahoo.com. I'll leave that address in the video description for you as well. But certainly any vehicle considered. If you're a new viewer to the channel, then you may wish to go back and view some of the videos you've missed over the past 9 months. I like to think that they have gotten better, but as with anything, it takes practice. I hope that you've had a good Christmas and wishing you all a very happy new year. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye until next time.